From a massive sinkhole that suddenly formed in the middle of a Russian coal mining town, and another nearby that basically swallowed an entire neighborhood, to a terrifying crater in Chile that opened up in the middle of a dirt road, and a disaster in El Salvador that left several houses perched on the edge of a cliff. Here are 10 of the deepest sinkholes caught on camera. Tierra Amarilla is a small mining community in north-central Chile. The town is home to about 13,000 people, many of whom work in the nearby copper mines. On August 1st of 2022, a sinkhole opened near the Alcaparrosa mine. At first, it was only 80 feet wide, but it quickly grew to over 200 feet wide by August 8th. At 656 feet deep, it was large enough to fit the Washington Monument with about 100 feet to spare on the sides. Thankfully, the closest home was about 2,000 feet away, so unless the sinkhole expanded exponentially, they were okay. To be safe, the Lundin Mining Corp shut down the Alcaparrosa mine. Chile is the world's largest copper producer, supplying about 25% of all copper used on Earth. As you can imagine, shutting down even one mine can have vast global consequences. They were eager to open up again, but it wasn't up to them. In Chile, the government has absolute authority over all mines. When this sinkhole opened, they seemed eager to blame the mining companies. Mining Minister Marcela Hernando planned on enacting heavy sanctions against the company if it proved to be their fault. The property was owned by two countries. Lundin Mining, a Canadian firm, owns 80%, while Japan's Sumitomo Metal Mining owns 20%. Both denied that overexploitation led to the sinkhole. Puebla is one of the 32 states that make up Mexico. It's a landlocked state in the southern part of the country, about 80 miles southeast of Mexico City. Puebla is big on agribusiness. You'll find plenty of farms and fields outside of the capital city, but only one of those farms is home to a massive sinkhole. On May 29th of 2021, Magdalena and Heriberto Sanchez heard something strange coming from their fields. They rushed outside, but didn't have to go far. Mere feet from their house, a 70,000 square foot sinkhole had opened up. The worst part? The couple had just invested $35,000 into remodeling their home. Now, Mexican authorities were telling them they had to evacuate. Locals believed the farmland was established over what used to be a large pond. Over time, the land filled in, but was never sturdy enough for farming and human intervention. Environmental authorities had a different, more scientific theory. They think people have been over-extracting from the Balsas River Basin network that spans several states across Mexico, including Puebla. Depleted aquifers may have caused the soil to soften and the sinkhole to open. The sinkhole was already full of water when they found it. What's odd are the strong currents that seem to be running through. It also depletes around 3 or 4 a.m., only to fill up again by midday. That's why many believe the water comes and goes from an underground river. Sadly, Magdalena and Heriberto were never able to return to their home. It's unclear if the Mexican government took care of them or paid for new housing. Berezniki and Solikamsk are the second and third largest cities in the Perm region of western Russia. They sit atop abandoned and operational potash salt mines, with some reaching depths of nearly 1,000 feet. For reference, potash is the industry name for fertilizer potassium. It refers to the old way potassium was extracted from wood ashes and concentrated by evaporating the water in iron pots, hence potash or potash. Berezniki, Russia was an industrial city of about 150,000 people in its heyday. Today, they're sinking into the ground. In the 1980s, massive craters began opening up where miners dug for salt. They started swallowing factories, offices, homes, and even schools. The first major sinkhole opened in 1986, consuming mine number 3. They flooded it for safety reasons, but that didn't stop it from growing. Today, it's about 700 feet across and 360 feet deep. Berezniki has been mining the area for nearly a century. They left deep voids beneath the city that were doomed to collapse at any moment. Between 1993 and 2005, several earthquakes made things worse. They varied in magnitude between 2.0 and 5.0 on the Richter scale. As you can imagine, they loosened up plenty of soil. Things got really bad in 2006 when a freshwater spring began flowing into the open voids about 720 to 1,500 feet below the surface. The water eroded the supporting pillars, and part of the city came crashing down. 3 more sinkholes occurred in the area. The next was in 2007 near mine number 1. Apparently, a gas line beneath the mine failed, leading to a massive eruption of smoke and debris. This sinkhole was over 160 feet wide and nearly 50 feet deep when it first opened. 1 year later, it had grown to over 1,400 feet wide and nearly 330 feet deep. About 30 minutes north of Berezniki is the city of Solikamsk, Russia. And like its fellow mining city, they too are in danger of sinking beneath the earth. Disaster first struck Solikamsk in November of 2014. One of the mines was in danger of collapsing, so the Uralkali Mining Company evacuated all their employees and flooded the area. But that didn't stop Mother Nature from running its course. A sinkhole opened in the area. At first, it was only 100 feet wide, which is modest compared to the other holes in mine country Russia. But this one kept growing and growing. As it grew, it swallowed everything in sight, including nearby houses. As of today, it shows no signs of slowing its appetite either. At 410 feet wide and over 240 feet deep, you could fit a small neighborhood inside with room to spare. San Salvador is the capital and largest city in El Salvador. It's considered the country's educational, financial, and political center. The metro area itself consists of 13 municipalities and about 2.4 million people. That's about half of the country's entire population. Then again, El Salvador isn't actually that big of a country. They're a little bit smaller than Massachusetts. In October of 2019, a giant sinkhole opened up in the capital, forcing widespread evacuations. Homes teetered on the edge of an area about the size of a soccer field. According to reports, the area was on the verge of collapse for several years. Then, heavy tropical rains pulled the rug out from underneath.
Yo, guarda.
You can see how the hole cut residents off from the other side of town. It kept growing after it opened. The latest reports had it at about 230 feet deep. Home building in the area dates back to 1999. They began noticing problems in the area in 2008 as the land shifted from all the construction. They tried to mitigate the problem, but it resurfaced again in 2016. Then, in 2019, the ground finally gave way. Winter Park is a small city in Orange County, Florida. It's home to about 30,000 people, some of whom remember a scary day in 1981. An acre-wide sinkhole opened up, swallowing a home, several businesses, a community swimming pool, and part of a Porsche dealership. But it wasn't like this sinkhole opened without warning. In 1972, a local expert wrote a letter warning of sinkhole danger. They were overdeveloping the area and extracting too much groundwater. Of course, nobody wanted to listen. Then, in May of 1981, during a period of record low water levels in Florida's limestone aquifer, a massive sinkhole opened near the corner of Denning Drive and Fairbanks Avenue. It began near May Rose Williams' house. Within hours, she watched a 40-year-old sycamore tree fall into the depths. The hole grew over 40 feet wide by the following day. May said it sounded like giant beavers chewing as the hole devoured her land. Later that morning, May noticed her home slipping into the hole. She evacuated with her family and their prized possessions. By mid-afternoon, the entire house had fallen into the sinkhole. The sinkhole grew to 320 feet wide and 90 feet deep. By May 9th, some 250,000 cubic yards of earth had fallen in, along with 5 Porsches, a pool, and most of Denning Drive. Today, the Winter Park sinkhole is a giant body of water called Lake Rose. It's named after the woman whose house still sits at the bottom. Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine, now shortened to Dnipro, is the 4th largest city in the country. It's home to about 1 million people and sits about 243 miles southeast of Kyiv. The area used to be part of the Soviet Union, but that obviously changed in the early 90s. Dnipro joined independent Ukraine in 1991, but the road ahead wasn't easy. In June of 1997, a sinkhole opened under the city. Over 3,500 people were forced to evacuate their homes. Military personnel arrived to help people move their prized possessions. Unfortunately, they couldn't do anything to save their homes, schools, and businesses. In some places, it looked like the buildings would hold on, but as cracks appeared and the sinkhole expanded, those structures inevitably collapsed. Many watched as buildings fell into the 1,500-foot abyss. According to reports, the perfect combination of mudslides, flash flooding, and an underground river caused everything to collapse. Helicopter footage really puts the whole event in perspective. All that empty area used to be part of a thriving city. Now, it's just a pile of rubble at the bottom of a pit. The government went into emergency mode. Even the Ukrainian president, Leonid Kuchma, visited the disaster site. When it was all said and done, the total affected area grew to over 140,000 square feet. That's slightly smaller than 3 football fields lined up next to each other. Turkey has a major sinkhole problem, specifically in Konya province, the largest of Turkey's 81 states. One might say they're plagued by sinkholes. It's so bad that local farmers and residents are worried that the ground could open up beneath them at any time. What makes these sinkholes really stand out is the fact that they are often perfectly round and over 100 feet deep. But why is this happening? Konya province has over 2,000 sinkholes. They're created mainly by converging geological factors. Some sinkholes have existed for thousands of years. Others form as droughts lower the underground water levels. This causes the rock to collapse on itself and, well, sink. But humans aren't totally innocent here either. According to a study by Ankara University, intense amounts of irrigated farming dating back to the 1990s have severely drawn down the region's aquifers, or bodies of permeable rock that contain or transmit groundwater. Cattle farming has slowly overtaken sheep grazing on the Konya plain. Cows require more water than what's naturally available. And it doesn't help that the semi-desert region can hit temperatures higher than 104 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. The same Ankara study found that 70% of the wells dug on the Konya plain are illegal. Furthermore, they've been installed to water crops that require extra watering, like corn. Thankfully, no humans or animals have fallen into any of these sinkholes. They're usually roped off or away from civilization, but it's only a matter of time before one opens under some poor farmer's feet. Xiamen, China is a sub-provincial city in Fujian province. It's home to about 5.1 million people spread across 5 major districts. They rely on an intricate network of subways and highways to get around the city. But on December 12th of 2019, everyone was better off staying home. That's because a freak sinkhole opened under the road, right near the metro station, and it was all caught on this driver's dash cam. Several cars, including a taxi, were swallowed. Our driver was lucky enough to stop before falling in. The sinkhole caused a sewage pipe to burst, which flooded the Lukuo subway station. Before you even ask, we don't even want to think about what's in all that murky water. It turns out, though, that the pipe was already leaking, which caused the sinkhole to open in the first place. Some aftermath footage puts the size of the sinkhole into perspective. Thankfully, nobody got hurt when their cars fell into the hole. They were lucky the ground collapsed beneath them and they simply fell with the concrete. The taxi driver remembers driving along and then suddenly feeling like he was falling. As soon as they landed, he rushed to help his passenger and both climbed to safety. Suzhou is a city in the northeastern area of Jiangsu province in eastern China and is known for its central role in transportation across the country. Considering how much the city depends on its roads and highways, you can picture the problems that sinkholes might create. In November of 2016, surveillance cameras recorded a huge sinkhole forming in the center of the street. Some motorists managed to cross just in time before the ground gave way. A few were caught off guard by the sudden collapse. It's hard to tell from the CCTV footage, but there's a small divot forming right in the middle of the road. A security guard points it out as a blue truck drives over cautiously. An SUV approaches from the other side and almost crosses before the ground gives way. It falls into the sinkhole along with another red car. Time skips in the footage show the red car sinking deeper as two people appear at the bottom to help. A crowd gathered around the sinkhole, which was much larger than the security footage made it look. 5 people got trapped inside, but rescue workers got them all out safely. Reports say only 1 person hurt their foot. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another one just like it, then be sure to click the link on screen now. With that, thanks for watching and be sure to tune in next time.